Mental health challenges in Nigeria. Yesterday, when we set the tone with our background feature, many people were astounded at how Nigeria is placed on the African continent and in the world. The statistics show a rise that has been going on for the past decade. Perhaps it has gone unnoticed by many. But we're paying attention to mental health in Nigeria, and we began this journey yesterday. We held a conversation with Dr. James Komolafe, who says his first degree is in economics, but because of what he faced personally, what he experienced in his immediate environment, and what he sees in Nigeria, on the continent, and in the world, he decided to go further. First a master's and now a PhD in mental health. And he says he teaches, he makes people better with love. Kachi talked about mental health issues in the beauty industry. From Lagos Network Center, we talked about road rage and mental health issues. Magdalene focused on the military. From Ibadan, we talked about spirituality and mental health. Dayo focused on postpartum experiences with women. Today, we will continue. We have psychologists who will come and talk with us, psychiatrists, one of which is Ubong Simon. He's worked within and outside the country and is bringing all that experience to bear today on the program. My name is Thelma Obaze. Stay with us. We can deal. Yesterday, we spoke with a mental health expert. So Ayiba Tete knows that we're talking to psychologists today. A psychologist who will delve deeper into mental health issues. So he went a step further to do some research, and it sets a tone for our background feature this day. Let's see this.
It has been stated that more than 60 million Nigerians suffer from various mental illnesses, where a paltry 10% of them are able to access appropriate medical attention. The most common mental disorders are anxiety disorder, major depression, and bipolar disorder, which are the reason for countless reports of sudden abnormal behaviors in people. But they are quickly given paranormal and spiritual connotations. All the while, these conditions can be medically managed and even cured. With this premise, it is obvious that Nigeria is facing a human rights emergency in the mental health sector, an emergency that could be addressed if the proper legislation is first put into action. Nigeria's mental health legislation was first enacted in 1916 and was called the Lunacy Ordinance. In 1958, these laws were amended to give medical practitioners and magistrates the power to detain individuals suffering from mental illness. Renamed the Lunacy Act of 1958, these laws have not been amended since. The President, Association of Psychiatrists in Nigeria, Professor Taiwo Obindo, has stated that the number of mental health practitioners fall below the ratio recommended by the World Health Organization, and the few that are trained are eager to leave the country where their services are given better regard. He also added that there is a need for Nigeria to implement its mental health policy on the practice of psychiatry, referring to the fact that the document was last reviewed in 2013 and since then left unimplemented. One of the major components of the policy was the integration of mental health into primary health care. If mental health challenge is a fire, then unprescribed medication and illicit drug use is like adding fuel to it. And this deadly combination creates the raging fire of mental breakdown and suicide cases. That being said, it is not only the responsibility of medical practitioners and lawmakers to improve general health, but that of parents, schools, drug enforcement agencies, NGOs, and the society in general to preach against the abuse of substances, pharmaceutical or otherwise. Weekend Deal today will delve further into the mental health challenge in Nigeria.
Weekend Deal! It's Weekend Deal. We are focused on mental health issues. You could say mental health challenges. And I like why we're using the word challenges. It's not a problem. It's a challenge. That means if everyone is working together in the right direction, we will get great results. Let's meet and greet Ubong Simon. He's a psychologist and he's worked in Nigeria and outside our shores. So he's bringing a great wealth of experience to Weekend Deal today. Great to have you.
Thank you very much. Great.
Interesting. Someone was just asking yesterday if mental health issues are hereditary.
Well, mental health issues, some are hereditary. Most of them are being developed through process of life. Yeah, because most people, because of most of the triggers are depression. Depression is one of the triggers, which I would say depression is not really a hereditary thing, but it's actually something people develop through the process of life because of certain events that surrounds them. So it's not really hereditary, but it's just that most people take it from their parents, but most people it's just that life just clashes on them.
Is it because they were in the same environment? Because the statistics are on the rise.
Right.
It is something that we must address now. So what must we begin to do?
If you go on Google, you might see something that looks similar, but it's not really it. So if you follow that process and take medication or try to get to treat the person yourself, it's actually I would say it might be an issue, because if you do not follow the right process to do it, it might become an issue. So I believe that it's good there should be an open line where people can talk over the phone and call someone if they're having mental issues, so that we know how to treat them, rather than going to find the solutions ourselves through Google.
It's interesting. There are many messages coming in, but we'll go to Lagos. When you hear Yaba left, what comes to your mind? Do you know, have you ever heard Yaba right?
Yaba.
You know where Yaba is in Nigeria?
Yes.
It's in Lagos.
Yes.
So have you ever heard Yaba right?
I've heard of it. Yes.
Yaba right? Or Yaba
right.
left?
No, I've not heard that.
No heard Yaba left?
Quite some time.
So you don't know what it connotes?
Nope.
But let's go to Lagos to find out. Lagos, tell us. He doesn't know about Yaba left. Enlighten us.
Yaba left. That is the common phrase among locals in Lagos, used to indicate mental issues.
Stigmatization, just like you have said, they will say, it's a candidate of Yaba left. And they don't know that Yaba left is a place where sanity reigns. It's the Yaba right, where you see people fighting, drinking, all sort of concussions. You see some of them will remove their dress. On the other side, the Yaba right, you go there, you will see them at the bus stop there. So will just be grabbing other women going along the street, and you know that's where the insanity reigns.
It is cultural for us in Nigeria to cover up things, so it is almost impossible to identify who has a mental illness. It is a major challenge the nation is battling with. Oftentimes, one noticeable sign of mental illness is depression, and the ripple effect of depression in the lives of mental illness victims are huge and must be given utmost precautions and prevention.
A lot of things could be the cause. I can't really say it's a thing in particular. This could be due to the situation of the economy. It could be some other thing, not being able to have the mind to control whatever situation you find yourself.
I don't think one needs to take things to heart that it will get to the point of being depressed. Whatever it is you are going through, talk to people, speak out. You don't need to be idle within yourself. I think I think that's the only way to conquer depression.
And then most people have plans for life, and things don't seem to be falling in place. And then everybody has like, oh, by this certain age, I want to be here.
Depression causes a lot of persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest.
Now, there are many types of this mental illness. We have the mood disorders, we have anxiety and stress-related disorders, we have drug abuse-related conditions. Okay, so we have those that are mainly for the childhood illnesses. So one of them is mood disorders, under which we have depression.
With the recent narrative on mental illness, particularly the geometrical rate in the rising cases of depression, Weekend D visited Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, while the medical director highlighted some of the challenges being faced with their facility.
We are coping because not until recently we have the experts on ground. But the migration of all these experts now tend to take its toll on the mental health services. We have some consultants, some nurses now leaving the country in charge of greener pastures. We have the infrastructures, we have the facility to take care of the various conditions, including depression, drug rehabilitation, children and adolescent section for the children who have mental illness. We have for the old age.
In all, a lot is going on with the teeming youths. Despite their nice looks, lovely cars, makeups, good paying jobs, these cannot be equated with sane minds anymore.
Life is full of adversity, and it's like a school. You go to school, you graduate. Time will take care of whatever you are passing through. So change is inevitable. So if you are facing difficult situation, know that the change will come and you will also be able to recover.
Do not assume people are happy. Always ensure if truly they are.
All of us can be medical experts. All of us can be psychologists. All of us are not. So how do we know where sadness is natural and it's all right for the period it has lasted? And how do we know that it's lasted for so long? This is more than sadness.
Right.
This may be something else. At what point do we begin to pay more attention?
If you notice that your loved ones are going through a process and you realize that that sadness is, they're prolonging it, or sometimes you have repetition of the past events from their lips every time, and that brings either anger or brings an emotional drop, so that's when you need to know that these people needs help.
We have self-stigma,
right?
Then we have societal stigma too. In spite of the fact that these words are simple to pronounce and identify, mental health issues, mental health challenges, there's stigma attached. If you just walk up to a friend, you know, we've read severally when people will say, "I told my friend I had depression. I didn't hear from him or her again." Imagine a couple about to get married, and the lady tells someone, you know, "I have this challenge every now and again." If he tells any member of his family, they're like, you you want to go and borrow trouble, you don't have peace, you want wahala. So it's like this, we seem to believe that there's something wrong, not just to have it, to even own up to it,
right?
To be able to identify that you have a challenge and to say, "I need help," is even stigmatized.
It is.
Let alone the ailment itself.
True.
How do we address that? Then the self-stigma also in many quarters. People don't speak up and out because, first of all, to admit it, people will say, "How do you know? Who told you?" It's not in our lineage, you understand? Things like that.
So in that case, I think the problem, what we are lacking is awareness. We do not really have awareness. We don't talk about it most of the time. And the society, the community, even in the community, we do not even create that environment or that space for people to talk about, or for us to even instruct people or let them know what's going on. That it's okay to pass through a process in life. If it's okay to pass through a process in life, and it's okay to find a solution, either professionally, or you look for a professional to talk to, to see how you can bring solution to it. It's just that most of the time, like we say, men go through, if you do a research, you find that men go through a lot of depressing period in their lives, and they cannot talk to anybody because they believe that they own it. I'm a man. This is the process I need to go through. I have to go through this pain. It's part of me because I'm strong.
If I speak out, I'm considered weak.
Exactly. So most of them can't even tell their partners what they're going through. What they do is, I can only talk to friends when I'm drunk. And you find out that when they get all this substance into their body, you see how they unconsciously exposing what is going through with them. That's why you see most people believe that a drunk man will tell you the truth. Much more, because that's where their mind is open and they don't care about who is
almost
behind
like a
them.
child.
Exactly. So I think the problem there is that people have the fear of telling other people what they're going through, because in that system there was no way, we've not even created this awareness to tell people, okay, it's okay. Even through and social media, most people are living a double life. We have the physical one, we have the virtual lifestyle. So people do not create a balance to know that, okay, even social media influence itself, that this is not you, this is a shadow of something else. So people tend to live a social media life more than a physical life.
So are you saying that they should be able to set boundaries, know where to leave off one and let reality set in, or
exactly,
or it's fine to let all that pressure get to you and all?
Not at all.
I will take a few messages, then go to the Australia School of Music and and celebrities. Someone is asking, said, you didn't tell us, let us know where you're reaching us from and your name. He says, how can family members manage a family member who will live together? He has a mental problem and it's always causing trouble in the family, but he didn't specify the type of trouble.
Okay.
So how can they manage the family member?
In that case, the only way I would suggest to manage a family member would be, we should find a way. For example, in a family, we always have, for example, a son that the father trusts the most, or the daughter that the mother trusts the most. If we find out something like this is going on, find that person they trust the most. Let's talk to that person. Let that person be the channel, the bridge to get to the other person. Because if your father does not trust your judgment, and you come and say that, even if you're educated, I think you need to talk to someone because you're going through something, he'll be upset because you're challenging his manhood. Let me put it that way. But then if you find someone they trust, there's always someone they trust, and go through that person and say, this, let's talk to dad, or let's talk to auntie, let's talk to uncle about what they're going through, and find a safe space for them. You don't embarrass them. I know in outside Nigeria, what we do is that we have a family talk, where families gather and say, we've seen this, we are here for you and all that. But over here, culture, intervention. So over here, culture does not really permit that, because can you imagine a man of the house coming into the house and everybody sitting there like, Dad, we want to talk to you because we are concerned? He might get upset. It might even trigger him. So in that case, we have to just find someone they trust the most. We talk to that person and use that person as a bridge to get to him or her. Yeah.
One more message, then we'll talk about music in Australia and the celebrity lifestyle. A.M. Ahmad from Taraba State tells us that his colleague is experiencing depression right now, and they're asking how do they help her, because she showed so much promise when things were okay. She was doing very well. How can they advise her that she can start life all over again? But we don't know what led to depression, but it seems as though something happened. But it's like she's depressed and they want to get to her.
Right.
Ahmad says they can't get to her. They are unable to let her know that there's hope in life in spite of what she's going through. What ought they to do?
What they need to do is, if she's okay to talk to someone, even if it's because sometimes when people are depressed or when people are going through this process, they find it hard to trust people that they know. They find it hard because too much familiarity in it is like, you know what, you can't help me because I know you can't help me. So, but then if this lady wants to talk to someone, I do not mind helping. I do not mind helping because that's the only way I can actually see how I can find out the root cause of it and see where I could advise her and what the next step to do. So in that case, I believe that if they can reach out either to me or to a professional, and then we see, because I know.
So you can advise.
Yes, I do. That's what I do with other countries. I'm still being the advisor.
Some video communication also helps.
It does because I do virtual counseling a lot. I do virtual
it's so
counseling.
integral because many people cannot access you where you are.
Yes.
And there seems to be a dearth, there's a lack of experts
True.
with regard to mental health.
True. I think even the experts we have in Nigeria, if we can actually I would say inform them or educate them to probably also attach digital or virtual assistant to these people, because if someone is far away, cannot reach you only on a phone call, if there is a way we can actually get it to online for people to talk to every other person, like during COVID-19, that time people could not reach experts. So what we did was just to find a way to talk to these people virtually. We can reach them.
We'll talk about the Australian School of Music, but let's talk about it. Let's go to Oyin. Oyin focused on mental health issues amongst retirees. Does it start before they retire? Is it the fear of retirement, or is it brought on when they actually retire? Oyin, please share with us.
Retirement could be fulfilling after 35 years of dedicated service and can be a challenge leading to mental health issues, depression, anxiety, even suicidal thoughts.
Retirement is something that will definitely come. For me, I would say the countdown to retirement starts the very day you resume work. And so people should have that at the back of their mind and then work towards it. But in a situation where retirement catches up with people, then it becomes an issue.
For me, I think it will definitely come, but it depends on the level, because you know, you've been busy, you've been working, you've been doing this for a span number of years, then you now find yourself, you know, coming back home. It will be there, we cannot avoid it, but it's the way you manage it. And management comes with the way you are prepared.
A man who had put in 35 years after retirement, and government policy on the period and the time of making their benefit available to them, if peradventure that does not come, psychologically they will have it in mind that come this month, come this period, that his benefit should be paid. But where the benefit does not come, it sets in depression that will lead to frustration.
Are you aware that your job provides more than a monthly pay? For a great number of workers, it gives a sense of purpose, plans your days with a regular routine, and promotes social connection. It is important for retirees to remain active and engage in activities that can keep them emotionally balanced after retirement. A veteran broadcaster shares her experience.
If you are prepared, you can be multi-talented. You can do so many things with your life. You can join a choir and learn to sing if you have a good voice. One must learn to exercise. Don't be desk-bound all the time. You should have trust in other people. If you trust other people, you know how you can relate to them. There can never be a moment for that person to go into depression. Be resilient and robust. If anything, you know, I'm not saying that you are like a brick wall, you know, that people will be taking a lot of pounding. No, you're not a prisoner. Even those who are in prison, when you have the opportunity to visit them, you find that they are always looking forward to something to do. So you're not a prisoner when you go into retirement. That's not the end of the world.
Depression after retirement is common and real.
In as many as 1/4 of people who retire, that's 1 out of every 4, they'll have a loss of self-esteem, loss of purpose. They might be physically more inactive. They may undergo a medical event. They may get depressed. Financial constraints, some people are afraid that they may not have enough money to have a secure retirement, especially with the cost of inflation. So if they have what you call a catastrophic event, then they may be very worried. They may have a lot of anxiety and depression about how they're going to fare in retirement. Yeah, you should start preparing for retirement early. So at least 10 to 20 years before you retire, you should have a financial plan. What I'm advocating is let there be an annual mental status exam and evaluation so that you pick people that are vulnerable, that have risk factors for depression even before retirement, so that at that retirement phase, it wouldn't be something unexpected. You'll be socially connected. One thing that helps prognostically in mental illness in general is your degree of support. That's something that can protect them from having depression during retirement.
Retirement years must not be marred by mental health deterioration. With adequate preparations, this phase of life can be rewarding.
Wow, that's in depth. And we saw the doing of broadcasting there. Madam Julie Koka, we were with her last week at the annual programs conference here in Abuja. She spoke expansively about retirement, things you can do to stay active. But in spite of that, we do know that many people who retire, just before they know it, they just sink into depression. What is your take? Do you have a word or two?
What I would say about that, like she mentioned, we have to look for what we love, a passion for something. For example, most people that retire, they love to probably own a shop, or probably something, or they love to farm, or they love to do other things, So they need to find where their passion lies first. Okay, what do you love to do when you retire? Because that's where, when some people, when they retire, they feel that, oh, now I need more attention from my kids. And your kids, they're working, they're doing some other things, and that's where they feel neglected. So I believe that if you are moving towards that retirement, just be thinking of what
begin
can I do.
To plan for yourself.
Plan your retirement. What do I want to do when I retire? Do I still want to stay at home? Do I want to go out there? For example, a retired teacher or a retired teacher, if you love teaching, why don't you just see how you could offer kids, free tuition? It will keep you active, it will keep your brain active.
They could come to your house, for example.
Exactly. So you can actually still do your thing.
You can open a
help
school.
These people. Exactly. So I think they need to put their passion into work.
And they need to start to plan before the actual retirement.
Exactly.
So staying active is key. It can prevent mental health issues.
Yes,
staying active. Let's talk about Australia and the School of Music over there. You spend quite some time with celebrities and all of that. Yes, you spend some time with celebrities. I mean, what do you find? Everybody just sees them and think, they're having the time of their life, and their life is a constant bore. Parties, lots of resources, loads of friends. Is there more? Is there something that we don't see? Is there a dark side to being famous?
The thing is that being famous it's something everybody wants to be, but there are some elements that follows along the way. In AIM, Australian Institute of Music, which I was their psychologist, so I usually deal with inferiority complex and low self-esteem. In the music industry, there's so many competition. It's competitive. So most of them, when they find out that they are not doing as up to the extent they have to do, or they needed to do, or when they find out their colleagues or their friends in the music industry is doing better than them, that's where they feel they have low self-esteem. So it's either they come to me, because most of them, we are very practical there. They come together. It's an institution of music. We have different people, jazz people that are into flutes and everything. So we have this safe space for anybody that goes through depression, or you feel you have low self-esteem. Talk to this person.
Let me just take one or two more messages. Raphael, reaching us from Delta State, he says, I've been depressed now since I found out I had a symmetrical face.
Oh.
How do I get over this? My life as I knew it is lost forever, and I've lost interest in everything.
I think Raphael, he needs to the reality is that that's what he has found out, right? That's what he has. I believe that even people that are going through, I would say, that have either disfigure face or whatever it is, they need to own it. Let me put it that way. First, you need to recognize the problem. Is there a solution? If there is a solution, walk towards a solution. If there is no solution, you need to find that space in your mind to own it and know that that's not the end of you. Because the problem is that the society, when they see certain people, we stigmatize them. We say, don't talk to this person. You see the way he looks. Do not. It looks like someone
almost
you can't
everything
talk to.
that is not glamorous today is stigmatized.
Exactly. So Raphael, I would say it's not the end of the road. If you check, or that what will help him, if you go online, you find out people like you. You find out people that are going through what you are going through. See, because they do have advice. If you want to go,
but you said we shouldn't go online and take all what they said as the rule book.
No, what I said is, if you want to treat someone, you don't go online to look for it.
But you can get information.
Yes, you can get
So how do you
information.
now know which information will suit you and which won't?
For example, the process is going through right now. It's not the only person going through it. So if he goes to online, he will see people. If you search people going through this, you will see it. And then you probably get an advice from there. Okay, I went through this, because there is always a forum. There's always a blog that talks about
But
these
do we
things.
have medical experts who contribute in such instances? Because when those people gather,
right,
you have hand or limb or long nails or short nails. When people with a unique feature or habit gather at a point, do we have medical experts going there to contribute, or it's just them talking left and yaba right?
Most of them does, because most of this information you get from outside Nigeria. Let me put it that way, where you have experts will come in and talk about these issues, and advice on what to do. So, but our system, of course, we do not have that. But online, you can go online and look for this information. I'm going through this, and you see people that are going through the same process you are going through. So from there, you see where you can find help for yourself. Yeah.
I don't know. I tend to believe that the support system you have at home helps you to project it, and it's always a place you can run to when the world, it looks like it's going to cave in on you,
right.
And it's a place where you spring forth from with some things that can help you in life. But I don't know how vital that is in these days. Final thoughts, please join it with this last comment I have. I'm going to take with you. Abu is from Lokoja, saying that suicide is self-inflicted. It's a decision that people make, and that is not as a result of depression or mental health issues of any kind. With that, wrap up our conversation with your final thoughts.
Okay, that aspect, suicide is not really self-inflicted, because it's actually it starts somewhere. It starts somewhere. There's always a trigger to that. People don't just wake up in the morning and there's no trigger, they just jump off and they're gone. But there is always a trigger to that. Is it a past event, current event, or fear of the future? Yeah, because most people like past events. For example, as I said, I wasn't doing well in school. Current events, I don't even have something I'm doing. Future events, where am I going from here? Will I get married? That's the future. Will I be able to cater for myself? Where will I sleep tomorrow? Is always a trigger out there.
Advice.
So my advice is, if you are going through something and you know very well that you can't help yourself, like I normally tell people that you can talk to people like me or other professionals out there and seek for advice. Don't take laws into your hands or don't feel that you are alone in it. We are not alone. We are in a world that we have so many things going on with us, but we are not alone. If you go through something, try and talk to someone. Yeah.
Thank you. A psychologist, you know the word. I know when we're growing up, hearing words like this, we hardly ever thought that we'd have challenges that will let us seek meeting or audiences with such people. But the way the world is today, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
And you shouldn't feel bad or feel that you are different or you have a problem because you need the help of health experts, right?
Right.
Thank you, Ubong Simon.
Thank you very much.
It's been great chatting with you.
Thank you.
Please keep doing what you do and reach out to as many people as you can. You are watching Weekend Deal. We will take a break, but I'll show you we'll be right back. Please don't go away. Weekend Deal. And we continue with a real life story. You know, there's nothing like hearing from those who have experienced it firsthand, how they handled it and where they are now. Let's see this.
I was with my parents for like 4 years and I didn't hear from the other guy. So he came and he was like, okay, he's still willing to push through with me. And nobody would say no because they knew him before and they felt okay. But I didn't know he came back to like pay me. He felt I did him wrong before, so he wanted to pay back.
Wow.
So when he came, I did not know. I thought he even lied about so many things, that he's a pastor and so many. I never knew he was lying. So after the whole thing, but though I saw some signs, because then I was at least trying, I was doing well, because I was running a boutique and things were a bit okay and I had a small car. So he felt like I was already made. So he came and pretended to be a pastor just for him to get me. Do you understand? So I remember sometimes he would ask me for money, and when I give him money, he would tell me as soon as he went to ATM to get the money vanished from his bag. Those were signs, like each time he asked me for money and I don't give him becomes a problem. But I didn't tell anyone. I was keeping everything to myself. That was what made things worse for me. There was one day after beating me, and his own was even worse because he would beat me and make sure that I'm bleeding all over. He would beat my children. He would want to like kill all of us together. It was so bad. One day, when he wanted to light up fire on me, after pouring fuel on me, I saw my children. I had to pretend that I was dead. And then he started screaming, Franca, Franca, are you alive? I did as if I was gone. That was when he left me, just for me, so that, because the guy, I don't know, it was so bad. In fact, I had to run to one church because I don't know anybody there. And then the pastor there said, marriage is not a do or die affair. You don't have to kill yourself because you don't want to have a broken home.
Of course.
You know, but despite that, I was scared of what people will say because the first one, people, you know, I said the first one wasn't good. And then for me to come back and start telling them again that the second one, I was just, you know, scared of what people, I was always concerned about what people will say, which was my biggest mistake. I would have moved on without thinking about people. After all, it's my life.
Real life experience there. Ebere put that together for us, and we had Franca sharing her experience. Sometimes we worry too much about what people will say. You know, a mother who is alive is of more use to her children than a dead person who worried unnecessarily about what people will say. Step out the minute you sense abuse, emotional, psychological, physical. You need to go. Tell people, tell someone, tell your family, tell. They will still hear eventually. Everything goes around. Don't keep it a secret. Thank you, Ebere. Franca, we're learning from you. You are watching Weekend Deal. We're going to be talking with somebody, a founder of Nigerian Mental Health, an organization, foundation. Chime Asonye, you're the founder.
Yes, sir.
Tell us, an association, organization,
yes,
helping Nigerians?
Yes. So
Thank you for allowing me to grace your platform today. My name is Chima Sonye, as you said, and I founded something called Nigerian Mental Health. We're an organization of thought leaders, stakeholders, and over 30 plus organizations, both in the diaspora and in Nigeria, mainly in Nigeria, focused on transforming the mental health space. The current legal regime allows a medical practitioner or a government official to detain someone with a mental health condition under that pretext and isolate them without giving them care. This would change that. The human rights it would do is doesn't allow for discrimination in things like housing and medical services and employment.
They will be treated with the respect and the regard that they deserve as well.
Exactly. It will allow for access to their privacy, access to information. It will allow for them to take part in their treatment. That was another huge deal. A lot of folks who are in a psychiatric ward, they're given treatments. They don't actually know what the treatments they're given. They're not giving informed consent, etc., like that. They're not informed of the rationale. So this would mandate that not only do they get the treatments that they deserve, but
they are carried along.
Then the next thing is care, and this is very important. Nigeria is kind of like a Wild West. There's not a lot of regulations in the context of mental health. So people without qualifications, or there's no best practices. So this is going to establish, through the Department of Mental Health Services, a new stipulation that allows for national guidelines for public health services. We haven't had democratically elected legislators here in Nigeria during our Fourth Republic, because we're independent in 1960, ever pass mental health reforms. So we are still adopting a colonial regime, and if we're going to really move forward in the 21st century, then we need to pass the National Mental Health Bill. And I would encourage the National Assembly, the Speaker, the Senate President to finalize the bill, because it's already essentially finalized, and pass it to the President.
Okay. I think everybody identifies the positives that this would bring to the table, in not just in mental health care, but in our healthcare system in Nigeria as a whole. I want to talk about how this will address stigma, self-stigma, societal stigma, as well as the continuous is it that the health experts are leaving, migration, but that'll be after we take this feature from Uju. She's talking about flood and depression. Is there any relationship? Let's find out.
Water is life, they say. Yet water is a good servant and a bad master at the same time. The human life is surrounded with water. Water as flood, water as rain, pool water for swimming, drinking water, water in different forms. The rainy season is a climatic condition which balances the weather in nature.
I have gone out for on-the-spot assessment. It's a really sad story, and it's not even a story I would want anybody to remind me of. You're not in your house, the comfort of your house. You're not in the comfort of your bed or living room or whatever. You are now being subjected to go and live elsewhere, maybe in a school. Things cannot be normal. Number of persons affected is 4,452,058. Number of displaced persons is 2,430,445. Number of houses totally damaged is 169,261.
Imagine somebody losing their properties, they are having that feeling of hopelessness, they are helpless. So it affects them psychologically, and it also affects them mentally, emotional-wise. So not just the loss of properties, not just the economic crisis, it affects the individual psychology. It affects them. Sometimes it can lead from that short-term mental condition to even a long-term. And during this flood period, you see most of the victims, that's when the post-traumatic stress disorder starts.
With the gathering of clouds comes the rain. After the rain, the sun shines. With the blooms and glooms man cannot but have reign.
There's nothing as bad as you're not in your comfort zone. You're not at home. You are displaced from your own home. You're moved out to another place. You are farming. Your farm has been washed off. So psychologically, it's something that I have gone around for on-the-spot assessments to many states to see for myself. It's not a sight that one would want to even see again when you have people who are used to sleeping on their bed or on their mattresses or on their mats now being taken to another place far away in a school to sleep with hundreds of other people. It's a sad situation, but the most important thing is we need to get people back to their homes. We need to get people back to their farms as soon as possible. That's the most important thing we need to do.
Be prepared is a motto synonymous with the Scout, yet applicable to all.
To an extent, we have the first thing we do, the agency, is take food items, relief items to people. The first thing somebody wants in a situation like this is food, drinking water, mattress to sleep, and other things first. No matter how much relief they get mentally, yes, they'll be disturbed. You're not at home. Losing that comfort that you're not at home, you're in a strange place. You're somewhere else, living with hundreds or thousands of people in one place. Mentally, it's not. I don't think it's a comfortable thing.
One thing that we need to do to help in this condition now is that there should be a mental health promotion, in the sense that there should be awareness, there should be a rally, there should be an awareness created both online, offline, places of worship. We should tell people to always speak out. People should take their mental health serious. They should make it a priority. And there's a problem we have in the country where people believe that depression can be cured by money. People believe once you give me money, I'm going to be fine. I'm only depressed when I don't have money. But that's wrong.
Change is a constant. Adaptation to change is subjective. Whichever way life presents, resilience is a better answer than depression.
Resilience is a better answer than depression. Well, I'm sure that no one deliberately sits down and say, I'm going to get depressed by my experiences, especially when we don't even know what is coming next. We know that flood happened, but no one sits down and says my area is going to get flooded or my house, or I'll be homeless in a few seconds or hours. So it's not something that we can fathom or plan how we will react when it comes, but it has come. It does come. Yes. How ought we to handle it, and what else can be done about about these incidences?
Well, the thing is that one of the things we did with our network is that we saw the flooding and there was a challenge, there was a call out. One of the good things about COVID-19 is that there's been a lot more conversations around psychosocial support and well-being. So we need to understand when there these social impacts or challenges, we need to mainstream psychosocial support, whether it's in therapy or helplines and things like that. So there's a lot of calls on our network because we have a national network asking individuals, are there those who have best practices in humanitarian affairs in terms of giving psychosocial support? And we identified a couple of organizations and then we passed them along so they could be mainstream when they're doing interventions. So you saw the report right now, it talked about the flooding, it talked about the challenges.
Very in-depth.
Yes, and we saw that with COVID-19 as well. But not only COVID-19, we saw that with NSARS. What people are doing right now is that for NSARS, for instance, not only was there was people who are doing activism, but they were mainstreaming lawyers and also psychosocial support, if that makes sense, right? They were getting individuals who are doing activism. So here we need to make sure we not only treat their bodies, but their minds at their times. Imagine losing your family, imagine losing your livelihood, etc. That is going to not only put you in a depressive state, we have the outcomes of it. because the World Health Organization did a report. Based on COVID-19, the cases of depression and anxiety increased by 25%. In Nigerian mental health, we have an open letter that 34 organizations have signed on across the country, asking for adoption of the National Mental Health Bill, National Mental Health Policy. But one of the things that we cite in our open letter is a study from MANI, which is Mentally Aware Nigeria Initiative, and the Africa Polling Institute. And it said that over 25% of individuals had depression and anxiety during this time, and 75% of Nigerians have medium levels of acute stress. So
during flood periods?
During, in general, as a country, 75% of us have acute levels of stress. So if you exacerbate that with socioeconomic challenges or flooding and things like that, it's really going to push a lot of people over the edge. So we need to get these people the resources they need, and we need to mainstream psychosocial support in our humanitarian interventions. I'm glad that we're starting to do that, and I'm glad that organizations like us can help identify those partners that government can work with.
And the key word I'm taking away is mainstream.
Yes.
The common man, in quote, everyone needs to be able to access assistance. It's so key. If we're talking, we're galvanizing, but the people at the outskirts, are not getting it, then I would say we still need to do more. But let's talk about stigma. Self-stigma and societal stigma. We can talk about mental health all we want here, practitioners, treatment, but people look at others funny when they say, I've had mental health issues, I think I have a challenge. It's still looked at as funny. As you wrap up this conversation, infuse that into your final word.
Sure. I mean, I think the first thing is that imagine what our national legislation is right now, the Lunacy Act. So the Lunacy Act of 1958 basically allows individuals to think that they're crazy, because lunacy means lunatic, means crazy. So I think that the first change is in terms of how we discuss these issues, and calling it the National Mental Health Bill is part of it. When people think about mental health challenges, most individuals think about things like they have drug abuse problem, that they have some sort of illness, that it's something of God, right? So there was a poll done that says that that's the biggest challenge. So what I'm talking about stigma is that we need to change the language. We shouldn't be calling these things like disorders and things like that. Let's call people that, let's treat this as
and that's where the psychiatrists will come in. You will finish that conversation after we take this feature from deficit of psychiatrists in Nigeria.
This is the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital Quarry in Sokoto State. It is a mental health facility. Like other health stations in the country, have suffered migration of our health personnel.
Some people may decide to leave because of their quest for more knowledge and to acquire more skills which are not available in their own country. And it may actually be to our benefit if they decide to come back to impact this knowledge.
Before, we know Nigeria has about 300 psychiatrists, but now we are below that number because sizable number have left. And experts have looked at this, and they have looked at some push factors and some pull factors when it comes to people migrating to other countries to work. Of course, we know post-COVID, COVID has brought a lot of economic setbacks in countries, both in advanced nations and here in developing countries. And naturally, people from some developed countries have moved to other countries for greener pasture, and then they left vacancy, and some have died actually because of COVID. So those countries need a replacement, and of course, as economically rich countries, they offer more pay for people that are working here, and somehow an amount that sometimes cannot even compete with what is being paid here. Insecurity is one of the problems. We know some social amenities are not here, elsewhere they are there, and sometimes people may want to offer maybe a better opportunities for their children in terms of education and other opportunities.
Mental health cases in Nigeria are on the increase due to increasing challenges in economic downturn, marital disagreements, drug abuse, loss of hope for the future, yet medical facilities are unable to provide psychiatric doctors to meet up with the task before them.
Recommended ratio usually averagely is about one psychiatrist to 10,000. Even in some countries, the recommended ratio may even be quite lower than that. But, you know, for Nigeria, if we look at the number of psychiatrists and our population of 200 million, you will be having basically a ratio of 1 to 500,000 thereabout. That is a far departure from the recommended ratio.
It takes a long time to produce a professional like myself, for instance. You know, a long years of training. Because of that, replacing people like us is very difficult. You can't do just easily like that. So wherever they leave gap, replacing that gap it takes a long time. So that has brought shortages in some places. Coupled to the fact that despite the economic setbacks, the federal government of Nigeria has opened more newer places, more universities and more teaching hospitals that require the same number of manpower that we have on ground. So you can see that there is increased needs at home, and then there are so much deficit in terms of people living. So that has really impacted the system. But then there are some efforts being made by various institutions to see that these gaps are filled. For instance, I'm working in Kano, but I'm here as a visiting consultant trying to fill some gap, and we have many of us coming to other sister institutions to cover the gaps.
As we record deficit due to exodus of medical experts in the nation, in the Japa slang, myths around the profession, one wonders how to reverse the situation to save the nation's sanity on mental health.
Psychiatrists and psychologists will stop migrating out of the country and stay in to work with Nigerians.
The challenge of psychiatrists and psychologists is huge. A lot of people focus on the psychiatrists. We also need to look at the psychologists, and it's not much better. We have the National Association of Psychiatrists saying that they have 250 to 220 people, 220 million people. But I was just talking to the National Association of Clinical Psychologists, and they said that they only have less than 400 registered, 250 licensed psychologists. So when you think about them combined, it's still very, very low. So we need to train people, and we saw some of this during COVID. We need to train people in lane counseling. We need to train people in mental health first aid. We need to train people. We need to get more hotlines out there so we can get people more access and resources that they need. And we need to take advantage of technology.
Okay, thank you very much. Very in-depth, very enlightening. And we wish Nigerians well. And we wish you success as you push forward to impact and improve mental health in Nigeria at all levels.
Can I just say one more thing?
Well, we're rounding up. We're short for time.
People should check our website, www.nigerianmentalhealth.org, if you want to learn about how you can get involved and help push the National Mental Health Bill.
Okay, thank you. Don't self-stigmatize. Don't stigmatize others. God bless Nigeria. Bye-bye.